Batgirl issue 4, Tate Brombal writing with Takeshi Miyazawa on the art. So, in the last issue, Cass had basically encountered like some of the head honchos on the train, which included Nissa Al Ghul. So this one picks off with her trying to decide what to do about that and how to approach it. And there's, again, like this book's had, there's a lot of good like narration from her where she's kind of like going through each of them, and Angel Breaker's there, and she's like, okay, enemy, this other guy, Josiah, maybe a friend, you know, so this other guy in a suit, no idea who he is, unknown. So yeah, it's basically her considering what she's going to do, and even at one point maps out in her head how she'll take out the entire room full of people if she has to, and we get this great one-page spread of like sort of like ghost Cass going through all the positions of the fight.
Just the way that this book used the color purple throughout, right? So then like everything's bathed in purple around Cass, right? And then when she gets there and it's the lighter purple ghost figure just going through, like even Nissa's wearing purple, right? And it makes that whole sequence just pop. And yeah, so the colorist is here really, really working overtime.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a standoff. The others try and sort of de-escalate the situation, including her mother, including the guy she's kind of become somewhat friends with. And they're basically saying, hey, the unburied are a threat to us all. We have to deal with this. We have to do this. You know, whatever. But the real fun, though, as this book has, is when the action kind of kicks in and someone comes into the train car and Cass immediately turns and goes, you know, in her head goes, who, breath, movement, unburied, and immediately sort of turns to react. But it ends up being like kind of like a suicide bomber, I guess, because he kind of blows up and we get this full page spread of this like blue explosion coming out of the train car. So, and all of a sudden there's unburied everywhere. They're out, the main big bad guys here, and he's also brought another sort of main villain that's going to fight. What is it? Naguri, the Unknown, is the
and this guy's Chodak the Unbowed, because then
that's the big guy, yeah.
That's the big guy, but that's not the main one that she fought that blinded her. He shows up later.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. He's this guy. That other guy's called in, and because he shows up later.
That's right. This
big Jack dude, he looks like someone that Dave Bautista would play in a movie, right?
Sure.
So you know, just I like that there's other aspects to the Unburied. So we have Calder. We have the Unknown. What'd you say? Nagiri.
Nergi, the Unknown.
Yeah. So it adds this instant, you know, sense of like order to this group of the Unburied. And,
so Nergi the Unknown is like a woman who's in like a blue cloak with a hood. So just to give you kind of a visual, very different from the others. So there's a big 2-page spread of like Cass fighting amongst the others, fighting the Unburied, with all these little panels going across the top and the bottom for all the little bits. What I liked is that the top row of little panels is like all the others fighting the Unburied, but the bottom row is all Cass.
Yeah.
So it just kind of gives you this kind of split of like how much Cass is like contributing to the fight compared to everyone else. But Shiva grabs her and says they have to go hide for a bit. So they hide in the train car as Shiva deals with a wound she has, and she uses the blue petals of the flower that the Unburied use and puts it over her wound and says this will heal her really quick because it's this fancy magic stuff. So so it's like, okay, all right. And as per usual, Cass is like reading her heartbeat or her the way she's looking, the way she's touching, and realizes she's not lying when she says that, you know, like you're my daughter, you're not his. You keep trying to live up to what Batman is. So much of who we are has come from death. You have to accept that. Do not go soft on me, daughter.
I do love that she tells her, like, becoming a mother made me soft, but I put all that softness into you, and you must be hard. And Batman wants to keep you soft. And I was just like, God damn, Mother of the Year over here. Like,
oh, it's not healthy.
I put all my weakness into you. Like, but yeah. But it does come from a place of care, right? Because she wants her daughter to be this tough, strong person, and to rise above all that. So like, yeah, again, it's Shiva's a very complex character.
Well, and of course, part of the lesson that presumably she might learn by the end of the issue or the arc is that some of those things that she sees as a weakness are actually a strength, and Cass is going to kind of personify that. So yeah, the villains show up though. The big guy shows up, and Cass, like, just again in her narration just says glance, nod, inhale, now. Like, just this idea that she looks over at her mother and they form a plan of attack without ever saying a word. That's the stuff where it really sings and like just sort of like feels exciting as a Cass book. The other thing that Negri, the unknown, has is her weapon of choice. I thought it was a big sword at first, but then she opens it and it's actually giant gold shears. Yeah. And I'm like, she's going to chop her head off.
That's different. That is for sure different.
It's very there's a horror video game called Clock Tower where the bad guy runs around chasing you with giant scissors. And that's what it was making me think of. But yeah, very, very good. So yeah, Cass is holding her own, of course, throwing her batarang and whatnot. Obviously the other big guy that you mentioned, the Calden, shows up as well to the fight, and basically Cass gets knocked out, and when she wakes up, she's like, okay, plan, what do I do? This is a worst case scenario. What would Batman do? And there's no one around, like, everything's gone now except the dead bodies. But Jace shows up on a bike, like the one who's been kind of friendly, and he's like, hey, your mother needs rescue. What like, come on, you're going to join me, let's go get her. And so the issue ends with Cass riding off with him, and she kind of changes her narration to wrong question, not Batman, what would mother do? So it's teasing that she's embracing, some ideas from her mother, maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's because that whole conflict of the Order of Shiva, right, is that for all the assassins or would-be assassins, there's also this group of healers, right? And so there's this dynamic there, and so she's going off with the healer to save her mother. But yeah, there's also, I like this sense of uneasiness with dealing with Nyssa, because there's clearly something going on, like that she's also having going on, because she's having these tremors, right? And that's what Cass notices before the bad guys attack, before the guy comes in and blows himself up.
Is this a Lazarus pet side effect that's kind of something creeping up, maybe, or something? Yeah,
right. I don't know. And all ghouls always use people to their own means. So like, what does Shiva and Cass have that Nyssa really wants? Is there something inherent with them? So, but yeah, no, always good. This book is, I think Cass.
One thing to point out, though, is that Shiva said repeatedly that this Unburied were coming for Cass, and that's why she had to come with her. But the villains here literally say, we don't care about you, we're just here for Shiva, and then just leave her alone. They leave her there unconscious. So Shiva was lying. Like, she dragged Cass into this under false pretense, and now Cass knows that, but at this point now Cass just can't let her mother be taken and, either kidnapped, killed, whatever they're going to do with her. So yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of quandary to put Cass into. I think ultimately, obviously, she is going to go back to Gotham at the end of this arc, what you would presume, but it's kind of this thing where, it's almost the favorite story that people love to tell with Cass, is like, okay, her dealing with her mother and her mother's treatment of her, and how does Cass process this and whatnot. And yeah, just curious, because we have other back family members who kind of have this. I mean, Damien, literally, his mother is Talia, and the whole heir to the demon side of him that he has to deal with every so often. This kind of feels that we're doing maybe a slightly more kind of like nuanced take on that with Cass, where she's kind of having to consider what her mother actually means to her, and maybe admit that she does still care about her, perhaps, in some way. And how does she process that, but also wanting to, be a bat and be all the other things that she's learned to love and be, in recent years.
It feels like Shiva's like, don't fight against who you really are, but Cass is gonna learn that who she is, right? Yeah. And it is from, taking aspects of Shiva and of Batman.
And at one point in her narration, she also refers to Batman as father early in the issue as well.
So here when Calder takes and she blacks out, he says, your mother's payment enough, accept these terms and return to your city. Perhaps then you will live a long life. right? So yeah, so there's something afoot here that Shiva left out. That I feel like I don't necessarily think it was, to trick Cassandra into this. I feel like it's the opposite. It's she's the only one that's going to be able to solve it. There has to be something to do with the Unburied here. So, and if I had to believe, I would feel like the Unburied might not be this evil group either. Because you got to think they stand against Ra's al Ghul.
I think that's a bit murky because they have killed innocent people already in previous issues.
True.
So I don't think they're going to be good. I think it could be a sense of they're equally as bad as the League of Assassins.
Right. I forgot about that with the old lady.
Yeah, the old lady and her family. Yeah, so
that's right.
Yeah, they're definitely not nice.
No,
for sure. Yeah, no, this was really good. I mean, I think the only critique I could maybe have against it is that I don't think the action scenes, well, they're good and I got excited by them, were as amazing as Cass fighting through the train in the last issue, because that was such a memorable sequence.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing knock against that I'd probably have, but it was very good though. I'm enjoying the story.
Yeah, I love the poses that the artist puts them in. So like there's after the train explodes, right, and they regroup, Shiva's standing there in like this I don't like kind of like a crane position almost.
Oh sure.
Right? She has her leg up with her arms spread out, and it's very graceful compared to everybody else who's on the ground. So it just shows how different she is just through the art. So yeah, it's full of that kind of like these smaller moments that I feel build up. So while it's not like as great as that last issue with the train, it still has these little touches throughout.
Yeah. So no, really digging where this story's going. Excited to see where the payoffs are coming. But yeah, what are you giving Batgirl?
I'll give this a 9.
Whoa, straight up there. I think for me this is a solid 8 out of 10. I don't think I'm going to go as high as the 9. I think issue 1 of this book is still my favorite of the run, but I'm really digging where it's going. So cool, and I think Brombal's voice for Cass is very, very good.